Nothing will compound your growth and impact your growth more than acquisitions. First of all, when you're buying a business, I don't care what the business is, you're buying contracts and people. I spent many years building consumer brands from scratch, and through those businesses, we did about $2 billion of revenue. There's a window of opportunity. There are 12,000 people retiring every day. There are 1,200 business owners retiring every day. 25% of those businesses will never sell. There's about 950 to 1,000 businesses every single day that will close down because no one to buy them.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Built to Exit with me, your humble host, Jason Sisneros. I love these shows. Today, you're going to get to meet somebody who I absolutely adore. I don't just adore him. I adore his wife. I adore his kids. I adore everything that comes along with this man. We were introduced a while back, and I think just overnight we became families. We became brothers. And when you get to hear from him today, you're going to learn a ton. I highly suggest that you follow the man, follow him on all socials, join the events that we do together. DealCon is his primary way of getting people together in real life. It's an amazing event, one of the highest level value events that I have the privilege of being associated to. And you're going to love the conversation. You're going to learn a lot. So get your notebooks ready, because here comes my brother, Tom Shipley. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, Jason, it's great to see you. And I'm thrilled to be here.
Yep. Glad to have you. Where are you coming into the show from today?
Tel Aviv.
Tel Aviv. It's a long distance.
It
That's
is.
a long way.
And it's pretty late at night, but I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, glad to have you, brother. Glad to have you. Excited to have this conversation. Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and let them know a little bit about who you are and what you've done and what you're focused on now?
So just some context. I spent many years building consumer brands from scratch. And we did, through those businesses, we did about $2 billion of revenue. It was primarily beauty brands that you would have seen anywhere from from a lot online, print, radio, infomercials, and of course, retail, Sephora, Ulta, Costco, CVS, and about 20% of our business at the very end was Amazon. So wherever our customers wanted to buy from us, and what we just wanted to be at the top of the pyramid, from building the decade durable brands with extremely ethical products that delivered results. And that's what we did. We sold the private equity in 21, that portfolio of brands, in which, the business brands we did along the way. The first $1 billion brand that we did was hydroxytone skincare. Caronique, we created a new category in women's hair loss, and Christy Brinkley Beauty and other brands in that portfolio. And the context for this and what makes this kind of interesting is, and we don't have to go back in the days in my time in the special forces. We'll just start with in 1999. I think this is important for your community, is the two opportunities that happened. In 1999, I started my first, I'm going to say, real business, where I identified an opportunity, and very quickly, most of our sales were online, but we were mailing out millions of catalogs every month. Catalogs are the things that they used to put in your mailbox. And then we are also in a dozen pages in the Sky Mall magazine. Life was great. But then in 2000 was the dot-com bust. With it, there was a recession. Consumer confidence went down. Average order went down. Conversion rate went down. And what does that mean? That means that we started losing money fast. We're almost out of cash. And opportunistically, someone called me up and said, I have a perfect business for you. And fast forward 90 days later, we bought a business twice our size, and a year later, I exited. 2 years later, I found myself in the same predicament. My partner and I went in financially, 100% all in. We had this vision. We're going to build a $100 million beauty brand using direct response marketing. At the end of the year, we were out of cash. And when we were out of cash, out of options, 401k, credit cards max, car, mortgage, everything, the typical entrepreneurial dream. And Drew turned to me and said, we both have young daughters. What are we going to do? And I said, I don't know. Last time this happened, I bought a business. And so that's what we did. We bought a business that we were doing $300,000 in revenue at this point. Great unit economics. we were just out of money and no one would lend us money or invest in us. We bought a $15 million business with $1 million in cash flow. They had everything we needed to grow this business. And we put our little skincare brand, Hydroxyl, on top of this platform. And we went from our business 300,000, their business 15 million. Within 3 years, we did $100 million and we did $1 billion. And it was going back to our thoughts is acquisitions can solve almost any business challenge. But I'll fast forward, that's how I get into acquisitions. Fast forward into COVID, I came up with the idea of with a friend of mine, we started putting together a plan to buy brands. Suddenly that plan turned into a big plan to buy 100 brands. We raised 100 million. We launched Foundry Brands, our next platform. The next year, I launched a roll up to do digital advertising agencies. And we exited that about 8 months ago, building a portfolio of digital advertising agencies. And what I love doing before I start my next roll up a year from now, what I love doing is along the way, we started teaching incredible entrepreneurs, yours in my community, Jason, is that Fortune 1 million is the million businesses between 1 million in revenue and 100 million in revenue, that we love teaching them how to scale through acquisitions. It is lower risk and more predictable if you do it right than almost any other way you can share with me how you're going to scale businesses significantly. We could talk about the math later, but basically that's what I'm doing. We run a number of events every single year. We get to teach entrepreneurs. And this is where DealCon CEO M&A Summit, where Jason Sisneros himself opens up our event and gives so much incredible energy, and love having you there.
I love being there. It's like I said, I hope you keep me till the end of our days, brother. I hope to always keep coming back to your events because I love it. It get to be around you and your not just your family, which is amazing, but also your team. You've put together a hell of a team of people that are very servant oriented as well. So two things out of your introduction that I want to touch on. Um, One is talking a little bit about roll-ups, okay? Because, that's it's kind of new to the marketplace. It's not new to, to the world of private equity and the mergers and acquisitions. It's not new. It's getting out there, though, to business owners. And I'd love for you to spend a little bit of time on what a roll up is and how somebody that's like, Jason, I watch your show. Really, what I watch it to do is I want to build my roofing company to a place where I can exit it someday, right? And I want you to hear from one of the best people in the world at doing this that maybe on your journey to your exit, you may want to acquire a couple of other assets along the way to speed you to that outcome. We do that a lot with our clients. It's something that they're not contemplating in the beginning. And then we start talking about it. It makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of speed that comes along with it. So talk a little bit about the roll up process, the roll up thought process, and what somebody that's watching this that has maybe one company hadn't ever thought of that they may want to start thinking about.
And we'll do this iterative. You'll keep on asking me questions about it to make it interesting, because I can talk about this forever. But let me start with some basic economics on this. Most mature businesses that I see are really fighting for the dream of 20% annual growth, not early stage business, but mature businesses. And typically over a 5 year period of time, it's difficult to sustain that. It's going to be a down year. And therefore, if a company has that 10% compounded year over year growth, good for them. They increase their enterprise value by 60%. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I want to and we won't factor in inflation into that, what that really means for them. But imagine this, you're to take 5% of your resources and dedicate it for talking with sellers and doing acquisitions. And we're going to break this down to show you it is not that complex to an acquisition. And going back to my first two times doing an acquisition, my second time, it was myself and a partner working out of an attic in Richmond. And we bought this company and we had no time. We had no resources. We were able to do this. So if you would dedicate 5% of your resources and you do one acquisition every year to a company that's half your size, one acquisition every year that's half of your run rate, and you continue growing your business, After 5 years, you'll increase your enterprise value by 2,000%. That's the math. You have a choice. After 5 years of work, okay, having a business that's worth 60% more or 2,000% more. The strategic options you have are significantly. Now, it could be a third of your size, every year. It could be every other year, but nothing will compound your growth and impact your growth more than acquisitions. So, and what we call, it could be just one acquisition will do it. What we call a roll up is when you do it very systematically and programmatically, and you do one or more on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And that's
Love
your
that.
growth strategy.
Love that. So, a lot of people in the realm of starting to think about this, you said two things that are very important that you glazed right over because you give master classes every time you open your mouth. I love listening to you. I learn from you. My approach changes every time I talk to you. But you said something because of your character, and we'll get to that a little bit later in the show, but because of your character, you don't see things as obstacles, you see them as opportunities. And so you blazed right past two things that you said. We did this from an apartment, right? And we did it with no resources and no time. So talk to us how, when somebody's listening to that, they go, Tom, you just said you had no money basically, and you had no time, and you bought somebody that was bigger than you. How the hell did you make that happen? Dive into that just a little bit.
Okay. And remember, we did this twice over, I did it twice with two business over or 3 year spans. First one is we were working max hours trying to keep this thing alive. We were out of cash. We were running on fumes. And our CFO said, might as well wind everything down. Okay. That was the first situation with our first business. The second business, it was just me and Drew in an attic, basically it was above a real estate office. We rented out the attic and it was just two of us. And the work we had to do to pump out that $331,000 of revenue is everything was manual. There were no systems in 2005. There weren't SaaS platforms. There wasn't Spotify. All that we had to do manually. We do the marketing, the copy, everything, manage everything we did, process orders. So we really had no time and we were focusing on every dollar. Yet um, we were done, and therefore it's the only option we had. So yeah, we were out of resources and out of money. Now, how do we practically do that? Because someone says that sounds what a great story, but what does it actually mean? It means that we used our net again. Right now, I have different programmatic ways to create a consistent flow of conversations with motivated seller. Back then, I didn't know better. So we leveraged our network. And one of the companies that we network with actually, it was interesting. They actually paid us to do consulting. So kind of we got paid along the way to buy their business. At the very beginning of our discussion, we said, we love what you built because they built an extremely efficient operation in Hoboken, New Jersey. At the time we met them, was before they moved into their warehouse. They were basically doing fulfillment of like 5,000 packages a month out of a kitchen. Their kitchen, they had is it two townhouses put together, customer service programmer, but they were lean and mean and they were high production value, what they had. And so we're joking, we either wanted to build this over the next 2 years or we wanted to buy them. And then suddenly, again, this is a key thing with acquisitions. Acquisition opportunities are happening everywhere. It's the person you're sitting next to at a bar or a restaurant or waiting in line, and you just find out you're curious about what they do. If they own a business, ask them what their dreams are. What do they want to be doing 5 years from now? Wow, you're going to find that they really want to exit, or they have other dreams, or they want to be skiing or scuba diving. These are opportunities. You get a chance to learn about their business. It always starts with those conversations. So this one was just that way, and we said we were going to build it or buy it or buy a business like yours. And they said, oh, or buy your business. And they said, well, how much should we pay for it? That's where the discussion happened. And remember, they were a business that grew every year for 5 years. They got up to 15 million in revenue and a million of EBITDA. They were a young couple who started just the age of 20 and they were 25 years old. We were seasoned. And therefore, when we gave him the price and we were only had to borrow 2.5 times EBITDA to buy the business, then we went out and we found, and again, so this is the thing, we had no cash left. So we went and found a good lender, which in this case was a mezzanine capital company, mezzanine lender, that gave us the capital to buy it. So again, I can go into a story about how we found them and how the deal structure on that. But here's the key thing is you're a good operator and what lenders want to see, but you're buying a profitable business. They didn't underwrite our $300,000 break even business. They underwrote the business we were buying, which was a profitable growing business. And they saw two professional entrepreneurs that said, we're going to professionalize and scale this business. And the bank said, I believe in you. The lender said, we believe in you. And they backed us to grow a profitable business.
Yeah. It's so I love listening to your story because it brings up all the deals that I've done, throughout my career too. And you think back on some of this stuff and you go, I think we were just insane. I just think we were crazy enough to go, I'm not quitting. So what's the next step? Like,
Right,
what do
right,
we
right,
do to
right,
keep
right.
it alive? Right.
Most people are talking about what if the bad things are going to happen, and when
Yeah.
you have no choice, you say what if the good things are going to happen, and then you're basically is you have to shift into abundance. And the big thing is abundance mode. When you're sitting in scarcity mode, when everything is going wrong,
Yeah. Yeah.
and basically you're out of options, that's when you have to either you shut down or you got creative.
Yeah.
You know, I learned that when the worst things happen and you're sitting looking over the abyss, over the edge of the cliff, and people are saying to you, "You're done, quit," and you see no way out, I'm gonna say it's never as bad as you think it is. On the same time, when you're at the top of the mountain, the wind's going great, there's nothing to go wrong, the cash is coming in, the enterprise value and everything is going great, it's never as good as you think it is either, okay? Because a brick wall is about to fall on your head. So that's what I said is therefore there's this moderation knowing that don't get overexcited and think you're in basically godlike because things are
Yes.
going great. On the other hand, when things are really bad, if you're resourceful, there's always options that are out there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I happen to believe in God, and I think that God's always got our back, and He's push us down a way to go, and it's our job to dutifully do that. And the doors that'll be need to be opened will be opened, and the doors that need to be shut will be shut. And that's how it's worked my entire life. You know, whether I believed or whether I didn't believe, it's awesome now that I believe, and I see that as an actual path. Um, and it's one of the things, and I want people to know and keep thinking about the idea of DealCon because you should go to the website. We'll put it up on this, post edit and all that kind of stuff, so you'll see it. But that mindset is what permeates your room. It's not scarcity, right? When you think about what's going on outside the world, and this is where I love the confluence and the pressure of AI is pushing people to be more valuable for the companies they work for, right? On one side, that's incredible for business owners right now, and for business owners to improve their margins and all that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, it's driving this need for human interaction. When I go to your event, this from the first time you invited me just to come check out what you were doing. I sit in the audience. I don't just go. Like I don't just go and like, okay, I'm going to speak and pound my chest and oh, good, high five. I did a great job. I hope you love me. Bye. I'm there to absorb, right, and to listen and to seek. And when I look at DealCon, that juxtaposition that you just said, in a world where a lot of people are scarcity minded, that's a room full of the people who are not. They are resourceful. That's why they're there. They're not there just to take a couple of notes. They're there to network. They're there to add value to other people. The friends that I've made through DealCon are forever friends, you included. And so I want people to constantly think about that on the DealCon side, because what he just told you is an incredible story, right? And he tells you these stories with precision and accuracy, but it takes out the drama a little bit of the fact that this man has continually overcame and overcame and overcame by just saying, I'm not going to quit. What's the next opportunity? Not scarcity, abundance. What is the next thing that we're going to do? Because I believe, to be a business owner and to be a successful one, you have to be rooted in abundance.
So I'll share this to start with. First of all, if you're trying to go this alone, um, I don't get it. It's tough for us to find people that are trustworthy, that
Yes.
know their shit, that who
Yes.
get it. Okay,
Yeah.
and therefore I love you, Jason, because you are that guy. Okay, you know your stuff. You don't exaggerate. When you say you're going to do something, you follow through with it. Period of integrity, follow through, and knowledge. And you know your shit. Whether it is acquisitions, whether it's exit, whether or whether it's scaling businesses. Period. Okay. So what I try to curate in the room at DealCon is if I couldn't find the room that we're entrepreneurs. If you can't find what you're looking for, you create it. In this case, I couldn't find the room I wanted to hang out in of what where Jason and I were just talking about. It's the Fortune 1 million. It's the million businesses between one and 100 million. But of those, I want the elite. I want people that are heart forward. I want people that are smart. I want people that are curious. I want people that are hungry. I want people that are willing to say what if and then actually take the step and actually go to the next level and have the courage and the audacity to do this because again us entrepreneurs we're an unusual bunch. We see opportunities everywhere and we want to solve everything. We want to be in the dirt. We want to roll up our sleeves.
Yeah.
We basically is if we see a concrete wall, yeah, we'll look quickly for a door, but if we have to, we'll go right through the concrete wall and we don't quit. We're basically the pressure that would kill most people, we call a Tuesday. That is who we are as entrepreneurs. And that's what I love to fill in the event of DealCon. I talk to most everyone that's come into that room and right now, our events keep on growing. And last time we had 100, we started with 12. Then every 6 months we do this. Last event we have 165. We have 175 is what we're going to sell it out at, but the room really has a cap of 200. This again, so we're at this thing keeps on growing. And we have to be more selective each time to making sure that we preserve this environment because to me, it's not about a transactional environment. It's about people that are there to support each other, grow and learn. And we have so much opportunities in front of us, but our obligations as founders, as CEO, is basically to find leverage and compress time to increase certainty, understanding that we will never have 100% certainty. If you have 100% certainty, the opportunity is gone.
Yes.
But we do want to reduce certainty, compress time, and find ways to leverage to accelerate our results for an outpaced outcome. Here's what I'm going to share with you that I've learned is most entrepreneurs that I ever know are stuck in opportunities that are too small for them. They never get a chance to really leverage their genius. And I'm going to say that acquisitions is the most profound way that I found where someone can create the opportunity that's worthy for them.
Yeah.
And when we play too small, I know I do, is I'm not really that great. The bigger the opportunity at the next level, I can operate the next level. And what people don't really share with you is when you go and you grow a business to a certain size, and again, we were doing 100 million a year, and then you sell that business. Now suddenly you're dealing with the next business. You're doing unless you buy something of significance, you're back at that and you're doing things below your, I'm going to say your level, but
Yeah.
you're growing. And then how do you get out of that? You can either grow organically through that, or you could basically accelerate to get to your level of genius again through acquisitions.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Again, I'm just thinking through my life and, my first bankruptcy, which I talk about publicly all the time, my first bankruptcy, I think it was literally God saying, because at that point in my life, remember, I'm a nobody from nowhere, poor, a poor kid. I'm making more money than I've ever even knew was available in the world with that first business and, living a great life. But to your point, it was nowhere near what I was capable of. And there's that gap that we have to fill. There was nowhere near what I was capable of, but I would have sat in that comfort. And that's where I love, God, I have a hard head and God has to kick me very hard sometimes. Hopefully I'm more tuned to it these days. But back then I was like, why would I ever want to do anything different? And so then he was like, well, here's what I'm going to show you. You have no actual skill sets to run a company. You're a great sales guy, but you have no actual skills to run a company. So I'm just going to mess with the economy just a little bit and show you. And as soon as the economy went down, no skills, how to scale down, scale up operations. It was just like, oh, nobody's buying, ran out of money, bankrupt. And that forced me into the worst portion of my life, experientially, divorce and homelessness and all the other kind of things, to call forward that warrior that I think we have inside of us. If you're a business owner, you have that same spirit that's inside of you that just says, I've got to, you're being called to do something bigger. So I love that you said that. And secondarily, whenever I hear you, I've heard your story multiple times of your time in the military, and I can't help but see that on your entrepreneurial journey and how you look at challenges. And I want you to tell us just a little bit, for people that don't know you, about your unit 669 experience.
Absolutely. I was at Florida State University, just a kid having fun, joining fraternity. And it was, even though I had everything, I felt very empty. I'm a person who, I mean, it took me years to define this, is I need to have two things in my life, and that is impact, which is meaning, and adventure. And that's just something that drives me. I think that's also entrepreneurship gives me both. And at that point in time, I knew I needed something, and it was empty at Florida State, and I knew what it was. I'm Jewish, and I went home, drove down the 4 hours to Florida from Florida State. My mom said, "What are you doing here, Tom?" And I said, "I would like you to sit down, and I need to share something with you." I said, I love you both, and I want to let you know that at the end of the semester, I'm leaving university, and I'm moving to Israel, and I'm going to have an impact on this little young country, and that has a lot of difficult neighbors, and I'm going to join the army, and I'm going to help impact the growth of this stage country, because after 2,000 years, we finally have a homeland. And my dad said, Tommy, you don't know anything about the army. You don't speak the language. You know a little bit about the country. He said, best case, and athletically, you're best case scenario, and when you get it, if you try to get in, is they'll put you at a bureaucrat pushing papers, but they're just not going to let you in. And I said, I love you. I respect you, Dad, but this is my journey and my life. And, we don't know what our defining moments are until after the fact, but that standing up to my dad was one of those defining moments. And I moved to Israel, found out about a number of special units. Again, when you're ready to lean in, you lean in fast. So for me, it was about knowledge. I learned about one of the four top special forces unit. One of them was all about just rescuing people and soldiers wherever they were in any terrain, whether it's they fell down cliffs, whether you have to go long distances and to rescue them, whether it's in a combat situation, whether it's by water, in the ocean, it doesn't matter. And that's what this unit does. And I just was mesmerized by that. So I tried to get into the unit. And here's the process: 10,000 soldiers try to get into this unit. They go through a series of tests, from psychometric, psychotechnic exam, physical exams, test, and then after that, they pick 1,000 of us for Hell Week. At the end of the Hell Week, they pick 25 of us, go through an 18-month course. At the end of 18 months, there were 14 of us that finished. The quality of the character of the men that were there, because they test out so many things, not only your physical skills. One is a big one is your resourcefulness. They like to test is, do you ever quit? And the answer is, I never thought about quitting ever. No matter how tough things, it never even passed when it came through my mind. They test your integrity, which is one of the biggest thing they test during the 7 days and also through that 18 months. So the gentlemen and the men that finished that were incredible. And there's so many lessons that I learned from that, Jason. One of the big ones was that if you surround yourself with, and it's what one of my friends told me about the reason why I should go for it. He said, when you surround yourself with people with the utmost capability and capacity, and what you call A-level people, you will go to a different level and see performance out of yourself that you've never seen before. And as a small group and a small team, you'll be able to execute things that most people will never do.
Yeah.
And therefore, my expectations coming out in building my teams was, I expect I have to live in an environment like the Army, which is, and are you in the Army, where there's high expectation, low pressure. Because if people need to be micromanaged, I don't want to serve with them. Also, if people have to be micromanaged, there's millions of companies for them to work with in the United States. It doesn't have to be mine. I
Right.
want people that thrive, that strive, that have curiosity and hunger and have a level of expectation that they're constantly level up without me micromanaging them down. So again, I understand what certain cultures have to do with it. The other thing that I learned, which is really important, Jason, is and it kind of became my philosophy, which is about people. It was the idea that you could always take another step, always, period. And in business is the same thing. There always the ability to go forward to another day. And the third thing is, and we're trained medics, and as a medic, you are taught along the way that in a mass casualty event, you will never have the materials you need to save the people you need. And what do you have to do then is it's about improvising. A good medic is one who improvises. Well, I'd say um, a good founder, a good CEO is about resourcefulness because you never have the resources you need. It's about resourcefulness. And we have to be as scrappy as hell. And you show me a business with that starts off with too much funding and too much resources, I'll show you most likely a company that's going to go belly up. There's
Amen.
something about having limitations in your resources that just make you better. Just like as you found out, Jason, yourself, and I've had my ass kicked so many times that breakdown is always the context for breakthrough.
Yeah.
Is that when you have a breakdown and the greatest lessons and the greatest opportunities are created when there are breakdowns.
Yeah. Wow, it's so good. So good. That's a again, masterclass just in that lesson. And one of the things that is unique, right? And you and I can have these I love having conversations with people who have actually done deals and been through the wars because you and I have these other level conversations when we're together. And I was wondering as I was getting ready for this interview, your time, you know, what that experience that you had was incredible in the military, making that and finally where they go, "Yep, you're on the team." Right? And then you go, "Cool, that's a great story," but then there's all the stuff that you actually have to do now that gotten that position. The reason why they put all that pressure on you is so that you can perform under pressure and actually do the job. And what I find, and when I was thinking about this interview, I told Emily, I was like, you know, there's an analogy. There's okay, I did an acquisition, right? I did an acquisition. And that's just that's yes, that's difficult. Yes, that's something that most people don't do, but that's just where the work starts. When you do that acquisition.
It's like saying I got married. Well,
Right.
great, congratulations. But now is the real work that lasts for hopefully 50, 60 years.
A lifetime. Exactly. And so I was thinking about that and I wanted you to talk about it a little bit because there's these things. And again, this show is not about BS like hyperbole, like, fortune cookie wisdom. This is for people who are actually doing this work, wanting to sell their company, wanting to acquire a company, wanting to build their business through acquisitions and then sell at a higher level. And there's things you got to know. And the thing right after that, what I imagine in my head when he made that team, and when we close a deal on an acquisition, there is this crazy time that's called integration, right? This crazy time that's called integration because you have your culture, you're buying a whole other company, and you have to meld that together. And that is where I think the percentage, I looked this up for our conversation, over 70% of companies fall apart post merger because they do not strategically integrate. So I want to hear from you on your stand because this is something a lot of people don't talk about, right? Because a lot of people aren't successful at it. When you talk about integrations, which is just merging those two businesses together, what are the key components that you find are necessary and that most people aren't thinking about?
The one thing no one thinks about is that you, the acquirer, have a healthy culture
Mm,
and you're functional. If you have a dysfunctional environment where your leadership doesn't agree, the people don't implement in your company, and you're doing an acquisition, unless you're planning on firing everyone and replacing with the new management team of the other company, which some people do, by the way.
Yep.
You can solve almost every business challenge through acquisition, including a dysfunctional, and that's the goal. But understand that you're just bringing in a world of pain because you're bringing that dysfunction in the company you just bought. Okay, so that's where it starts with. Now, let me make this clear. First of all, when you're buying a business, I don't care what the business is, you're buying contracts and people. Okay, so that's what your goal is, to preserve and really understand from that perspective and not take it for granted. There's things that we do in our M&A, programmatic M&A process, from having seller conversations to basically getting to know them, to doing preliminary due diligence, and then the due diligence process, and that's creating deal structure on it. But let me be very clear. The due diligence process on average takes between 60 to 90 days. You go from making sure you understand the foundation of their business so you can make an offer to buy the business and for the letter of intent that you're giving them. But then you're doing due diligence initially to confirm everything you believe is true. Initially, when you're thinking about a business, even before you sign it, you have a hypothesis on what the integration is going to look like. Am I going to run these businesses separate and we're just going to share back end services? Are we going to merge together? Are we merging together after a year? Is it a software platform? I have a software platform and we're merging it together. Are we changing their technology? You have initial thoughts as far as what the hypothesis, and every deal that you do should have a deal thesis behind it. So therefore, you also have an integration and how you're going to run the business, the thesis. However, everything you learn along that due diligence process is you're getting their information and seeing the way they operate, their financial, their people, their team, their structure, and what they do from a process perspective is, and their technology. You're developing your thesis for the day one, and day one is the your close. And what your goal is to have a 90-day plan for the business. Understand the first 30 days the most important. Ideally, what you're doing for the first 30 days, even though you've just spent 60 or 90 days studying the business, once you're in it, things are different and you get increase your inform. And hopefully you can do very little to change the business over the first 30 days because you're learning.
Yes.
But after that, it's game on, but you want to be very careful. Different people have different philosophies. Some people say, no, we're going to make all the changes on day one. And that's it. Just get it done with. I am a little more deliberate. I have, take Google's philosophy of do no harm. I try to minimize that and I create my clear strategy. Hopefully, when I buy businesses, I do not buy falling nice, Jason. I
Yeah.
don't like to buy distressed businesses that are in trouble, whose doors are closing. No matter what deal I can get, I like to buy healthy growing businesses. So if I wait 30 days, and therefore my goal number one on day one is I want to get secure the cash and the bank account because it gets a little haywire for a lot of reasons. I want to assure it's my first com, and the team should not know about this in advance except for the senior team. It's day one communication and making sure that we're starting to build a level of trust with everyone, which it means that if you don't give them the information, they're going to fill their heads with so much fear and rumors about everything that you're doing. And therefore, you want to get access. And therefore, for 30 days, I'm building relationships. I am building trust for the future of this business. I have a clear plan of communication. Is guys, we're not communicating today on what we're doing with our customers. Here's so please, everything business is normal. But over the next 3 weeks, here's our plan for communicating to customers. If we're going to be changing logo, anything else, I like to be transparent. But most of all, people care about what's happening with their jobs and what's happening with their income and what life is going to change like. And are they going to have their current jobs? Or are they going to be moved around? So I like to give people some certainty, and as we change things, I like to be transparent in it. So I know I'm talking about a lot of communication, but remember, when you buy businesses, you're buying people. And again, yes, there's processes and systems and everything else. I'm an industrial engineer. So I love that piece. I love the quantitative piece. What I leaned into years ago is the people dynamics are everything because they have the relationship with the customers. They understand the systems, they understand the processes. They've tested so many things and they know what worked and what hasn't worked.
Yeah.
So again,
A lot of
so those
history.
are the view. So that's it. But therefore, within 30 days, I do have a 90-day plan. But within 30 days, I am refining that plan. And of course, as you get a chance to interview all the people, you're asking them, if you could, what is the one thing or two things you change in the business
Yeah.
that informs your plan that you put together? Therefore, at the end of 30 days, you have a really tight plan on what the next 90 days are going to be.
Yeah. So when I say that business is an intellectual sport, I always had to look at business like it was a sport because it just resonated with me, right? But it's an intellectual sport. And you again just heard why it's an intellectual sport. You have to think these things through. I had disasters on my first acquisitions because again, young, fiery, a lot of passion, a lot of energy, and I, from my background, I just wasn't afraid of anything. And so I would come in and I would be like, we're going to change everything. And it just scared the crap out of people. And it made my job infinitely harder by charging through the doors instead of, and it takes a little bit of that empathetic side to say, what if I was in their shoes and I saw my business and the way that I feed my family and the way that I put a roof over my head, that I've been doing that for 10 years or 20 years. And what kind of fear would they be in? And it flipped the model for me to get, because you can bring that dysfunction in. I want to hyper focus in on that word that you use called dysfunction, because very few business owners actually know or understand. And there's four reasons why. We talked about this when I did your show. There's the four biggest barriers, I think, to a business owner founder that started from nothing and they've built something, right? They have arrogance, ignorance, impatience, and they're surrounded by the wrong team. Right? Those are four indicators of a true founder. Now, I don't hold anything against them. You have to be arrogant starting a business. As you said, it's not something that very many people succeed at, right? You have to be a little ignorant or else you wouldn't get into the game in the first place. You have to be impatient because everybody around you is not going to be operating with any sort of urgency. And you surround yourself with the immediate arm's length people that you can put your hands on to get that initial job done, to keep the doors open. As you mature into something that creates enterprise value, something that can acquire, something that can build to a transferable position, right? To somebody else can own your business. This word dysfunction, tell me so that people might listen to this and it might be them like themselves in the mirror, so that they recognize this. Tell me some of the things that you have found are signs of dysfunction that create um, deals that fall apart.
Okay. So part of what I look at is I like to try to understand the best I can the culture in a company. Why? Because, and I'm going to say it is sometimes it's dysfunction, sometimes it is just the way you operate. I walk into business, I've seen businesses where the owner makes all the decisions, the people are not in, the team is not empowered to, and he micromanages everything. And he or she micromanages everything. And for them, it created a successful business. But now suddenly, I bring in my culture. There's an absolute culture clash. I've seen dysfunction where the owner is erratic. Basically, it's their fiefdom. They're erratic with the emotions, and they have the philosophy is, "Am I?" He said, "It's my company. If I have a bad day, why would I hide it? I want to be transparent and open and honest with my people. If I have a bad day, I'm going to let it out there." And again, I'm going to say that to some people like me, I would call that dysfunction.
Yeah.
Okay. But other people, you go into some companies and it's the emotional roller coaster every day. There is bad behavior that's going on, and it could be legal bad behavior, sexual harassment, things like that, or it could be just be uh, bad behavior on the way they treat employees or other people in other departments. Sometimes there's dysfunctions of silos that
Yeah.
basically certain departments don't talk to each other. They don't collaborate. Okay. So again, there's different types of dysfunctions that can be addressed. I know we don't have a lot of time, Jason. I also would love to just talk about, because there's a thing about I need money to buy a business.
Mm-hmm.
And this
Yeah.
is, if I think about why people don't buy businesses, and again, I want to restate something you said. Sometimes the best journey for the exit you want is with an acquisition along the journey.
Yeah.
Most people think you need capital, you need money to do acquisitions. I've done several acquisitions where I was able to buy companies for 10% cash at close, which I borrowed because You can always borrow 10% cash at close to run almost any business. So I borrowed cash at close on the business we acquired, and the rest of it was pure seller notes. Seller notes is we take the value of the company. I might pay more for that, and basically, uh, that I'll just amortize that over 5 years with a 6% interest rate and buy it out. There could be some kicker on this. Jason, you probably talk about this a lot. Is there is the greatest wealth transfer ever in our history is going on right now with the baby boomers, which will pretty much be all gone by 2035. There is a window of opportunity. There are 12 Again, there are 12,000 people retiring every day. There are 1,200 business owners retiring every day. 25% of those businesses will never sell. There's about 950 to 1,000 businesses every single day that will close down because and with no one to buy them.
Yeah.
75% of businesses that go to market to sell, even
Don't
with a
sell.
broker, with a LOI, will never sell. And then
Yep.
what owners are faced with? Owners are faced with the possibility of closing down their legacy after 30 years. Number two is letting go of their employees so they're
Yep.
now have no jobs. Three is letting their customers saying you're gonna have to find somewhere else to go, or let me introduce you to a guy or a person. Okay. So that's the challenging. And and business owners who spend 30 years building something, they don't want to see it go. That's where the opportunities and the ability to go in and buy a company, even if it's on a seller note. Hey, you've been taking out this amount of money for the last, every year for the next 3 years. I'll make sure you take the same amount of money out, and basically you're giving the profit, but you know how to scale this business. There are so many deals and deal structures that are out there, and there is so much money on the sideline, and that's what we love to do at DealCon. Is we love to show people deal structures where you don't need your own money to do deals on that, and how to make it really exciting for the person on the other side. We
Yeah.
love to show people 255 ways of going out there and getting capital. Capital should never be the reason not to get a deal done. Resources, they're a solution. Everything you say is excuses, and we like to do is give resources and bring in people to help solve those issues. So
That's the
if you can,
difference, that's the difference between your event. The reason why I love it and I'll always go as long as you call is because there's real experience in the room. It's not somebody who learned how to market and then read a book on how to do mergers and acquisitions, and they're teaching you scripts of how to hit people up in LinkedIn to be able to say, "Hey, I want to buy your business," and then you go find money after you're dead. That's not what DealCon is. DealCon is real deals, real people, real experience, real failures, real successes, and that's why I absolutely love it so much. I got two short questions for you as we wrap up the show.
ask.
Um, One is, what do you see coming in the future? There's a lot of things, I mean, part of you said you said it earlier that you'll be on top of the mountain and there's a brick wall about to fall on you, right? You're like, oh, I'm doing so good. Well, the brick wall this time is AI for business owners. So, and you talk a lot about that. You put together a beautiful panel last time. I know you'll do it again the next DealCon. But tell me a little bit about what you see in the future that business owners can be taking action on now to take part in that wave and not to be left behind.
First of all, a lot of businesses are not big enough from a scale where they can apply the proper amount of resources. So that's where I said acquisitions are the perfect opportunity for you to get the scale you need. So jointly, whether you do an acquisition or merge with another entity. And again, the entity you have might be tech forward, might be advanced, might be their process, their systems, the AI they implemented may be more sophisticated or less sophisticated. But basically you're implementing your systems in their business, making them more profitable. But together, you have a larger organization that could then bring on more resources to accelerate your adoption of AI in your business. Okay, so I'm looking at acquisition as a key leverage that you have in order to accelerate your adoption of AI because the name of the game is keep on learning fast and leveraging the platforms that are out there and implementing technology in your business that drives down your cost, increases your efficiency and your output in your particular period.
It's short and simple. I love it. Last question. Last question. If you could go back to your younger version of yourself and give yourself one piece of advice that would forever change how you approach business, what would that be?
don't give a shit what other people say about you because they don't care as much as you think. And basically lead your own journey. Something that I picked up along the way, Jason, is that um, my life is this just book. It's actually a novel. And I have a responsibility to make my life epic and my novel epic. And every chapter in it that I define now as 5 years is mine to write. And I don't care what other people think about the chapter. I have to live it with the integrity. I have to live it with what I view as going for the dreams and going for big visions. And every chapter I want to make epic. And that's what I would tell myself is stop being stuck in your head so much. Go for it and understand the bigger leaps you take, the faster you're going to get to the keep building capacity you have and really live an epic life. We were not meant to this life to be on this earth, in my opinion, to have a fine life of mediocrity. And how was your life? It was fine. It was not. We were meant for it to be epic. We were meant to be creative. We were meant to stretch. And especially entrepreneurs, we were meant to really stretch. And that's what I'd be telling myself is just keep on pushing the limits, keep on going for it. And when you fail, understand that, oh my God, that was a great lesson and get back on the horse. In American society, we're teaching so much that if you fail, especially publicly, there's so much shame around it. It is shame that I kept after I had some failures that kept me hidden and basically losing a year to my life. And to me, is life is too short to live with shame.
Amen. Well said, brother. Well said. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being my friend. And thank you for the event that you put on, the high integrity levels that exist. And for your family and for your team and for everybody. I'm just sending them so much love and so much appreciation. Cannot wait to see you guys in October or maybe sooner.
I, I hope to see you sooner and definitely October 19th, 21st. If you haven't seen Jason on stage, join us. Basically, he opens up with such a roar, and literally a roar in that room. It's amazing and it's a spectacular environment. And it's just, Jason, you're the best. I appreciate you and Emily.
You're the best. We appreciate you too. All right, brother. I appreciate you and to everybody watching, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much. We're seeing, you guys are sharing this, the shows. The content is obviously valuable. We appreciate it at a super high level. You can see, when you research Tom Shipley, you're going to find him and I do similar things. And I don't believe in scarcity. I believe in abundance. I believe that as Tom said in the episode, how many companies are going to be selling? Over the next 10 years, there's going to be 6 million businesses that will change hands. 25% of them will just close up. Those of you that are watching, you own those businesses right now. And I can't help 6 million companies, right? We can't help 3 million companies. But what we can do is surround you through these episodes with men like Tom, that I'm just as happy if you do business with him as you would if you were doing business with me. And I want you to understand that's the environment that we build. If I'm on somebody's stage, that is a full 100% full-throated approval from me that I've vetted them and that they are doing honest, integrity-based work, even if they're doing the same work that I am. Like I said, I will never step on somebody's stage that I wouldn't be just as happy with you doing somebody business with them as if you were doing it with us. So make sure that you're doing your due diligence. Don't fall for the funnels. Don't fall for all the emotional manipulation. Do your due diligence. Pick the men and women that are going to advise you and help you once you've made and come to the radically intellectual conclusion that everybody exits how matters, and you are the one that is in control of that destiny. So for me and everybody at Built to Exit, and from Tom and from the DealCon crew, we hope to see you. You'll have seen the website a couple of times flash across. Please join us. We love to high five. We love it. He puts on not just the event, but cool yacht rides and dinners and comedians. And you never know what Tom's going to bring to the table, but it is value add all the time. So for me and everybody at Built to Exit, I love you. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace.